Education needs reform. While it works for some, there are many kids who are left behind, uninterested, not catered to, or severely abused and scarred. Teachers and parents complain about class numbers and discipline, while culture warriors bicker over the curriculum. Today, we are going to look at the issues facing the education system and see if we can fix it from the ground up. Because as YouTubers, we have that kind of authority. So Riki, in your humble opinion, what would you say is wrong with the education system?
The structure. The structure of our education system simply can't cater to the needs of children, especially young children.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are the needs of young children? Because people might think, hey, you stick them in this box, they're taken care of, they're supervised for 6 hours of the day, couple of crayons, problem solved.
Well, I would say that attachment and connection and the feeling of security and the sense of safety and being able to have their natural curiosity fostered, all of those things I feel just can't be met with the class sizes and the way school is structured in terms of one teacher, usually maybe 20 or 30 kids even. All of those needs, especially for the very young children, just feasibly, possibly cannot be addressed or met.
So in your mind, it's a numbers game?
Yes. Well, to begin with, yes.
To begin with, okay. So fundamentally, it's a numbers game.
Yes.
A child simply needs more than a 1 to 30 ratio of attention.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's a completely unnatural structure.
Okay. So what else?
So children seem to need to fit into the school system rather than the school system fitting the children.
That's a good point.
So they have to almost shapeshift to fit into the school model.
And it's pretty clear on a physical level even. Firstly, in a lot of schools, you all have to wear the same clothes. We call it a uniform. You have to be uniform, right? Some schools even tell you how you need to cut your hair.
You've got to look uniform.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's a really good example of just on what level you have to fit into the machine.
Your appearance and then your behaviour and lining up and all those sorts of things where you're slotting into a particular image.
Yep. So numbers and uniformity are big problems in your mind. Anything else?
Attachment figures. We're expecting children to go off to school for a big chunk of their day being away from their most significant adults in their lives. And children used to spend all day around their attachment figures. And now there's often before school care, then there's school, then there's after school care, and maybe a couple of hours in the evening where children get to spend time with their parents or caregivers.
Yep.
And it's often rushed and it's stressed, and then there's homework, and then there's so many things that just chew up all of that special, precious attachment time.
All of the extracurriculars that we're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're saying all this adds up to a bit of a problem. We're not spending enough time with the people that are most important to us. Children aren't spending the time doing what they really love and exploring naturally, and they're forced to fit into the box.
Yeah. So what about you, Kiwi? What do you think is wrong with the education system?
I want to say the system gets a lot of things right as well. Before I go on,
Yeah.
I don't want it to sound like, we're these homeschoolers who have this agenda and we're going to attack the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be questioned in life. Everything, especially institutions. So they'll only improve if we dare to question. I just want to make that clear before I go on. One of my biggest issues with the system of education is the purpose of it. Do we know why we stick kids in these boxes? And I'll tell you what spurred this on. I was talking to a dad the other day whose son is in his final year of high school. He's doing his HSC. And I said, how's he going? And he said, look, he's not really into school. Like, he's smart, but he's not into school. That's what he said to me. And I thought, what's he doing there then? Do we actually know why, as a society, we've said, well, you should be in school? I've got no clue.
Maybe childcare?
Well, he's not a child anymore,
No,
really.
I know,
He's got his driver's license. He could be doing anything. But I think the purpose of education really needs to be clear from the beginning. And it's different for everyone. So there's kids out there who would think they go to school so that they can get a job. There are people out there who say, School is so kids can learn stuff. But as we know, school and education are two different things. It's like saying, if you don't go to the gym, you don't exercise. How else can you exercise if you don't go to the gym? And imagine that if we funded gyms and said everybody has to go to the gym. It wouldn't stop because we have to do exercise for our entire lives. That would be insanity. We'd say, well, you can get exercise many different ways. Be like, well, you can get education many different ways too. It doesn't have to be inside four walls. So I think the purpose is a huge issue. We really need to define the purpose of education. Another thing that really irks me about the education system is the power dynamic. Teachers and administrators have so much power. The children are almost treated as criminals as soon as they walk in. The first day of school at many schools, and I've had my first day through many years of school, straight away, it's like original sin. You're treated like you've done something wrong. And the teacher has all the power over the child. I mean, to think of the idea of a toilet pass,
I know.
this natural function. And I love that, we're preparing kids for the real world. Yeah, because that happens in the real world. It happens in one place that I know of, prison. So the power dynamic really bothers me. I think parents have a lot of power as well in terms of choosing the school for their child. It's very rare that a child gets to choose the most important things in their lives. I feel that parents and teachers conspire to shape the child. And of course, the curriculum comes from who knows where, some ivory tower somewhere, right? Some dark wizards come up with it and think, this is what we need for the economy. So this is what we're going to teach people. Or it might be a political thing. Who knows? But that really, really bothers me. It's the power and the lack of power kids have and the fact that they can get in trouble. You know, education is the only industry that I know of where the customer is always wrong. Could you imagine a restaurant going, these diners, they don't know what's good for them. They're ordering the wrong thing. We've been doing this for 50 years. You're wrong. You have to eat what we've been providing for 50 years. Right? They'd go out of business. Insane. But schools, they've got all the power. So keeping on my theme of P's, I've gone with purpose, power. It's politics. There's so much politics around what children should be learning. We hear about what kids should be learning in terms of history, sexual education, political stuff that's happening today. No one's asking the kids. It's all politicians, culture warriors. Kids can learn whatever they want, surely, right? So I really get annoyed by the politics behind it all. Another P, which I've already mentioned, is prison. The prison-like environment. I was forced to do scripture once. And you had to fill out a form to say that you didn't want to go to scripture. This was in a public school in New South Wales in Australia. And I still remember the smug look on this teacher when we were doing non-scripture. She gave us this smug look and said, since you're not doing scripture, you have to do maths. Because that's punishment, right? They had all this power. It's like, you put us in this prison, you tell us what to do. I really, really don't like that at all. And to think this is how we're going to power our innovative new economy, right? By putting our brightest young minds in prison. Awesome. And of course, I'll just reiterate what you said, Riki, the numbers. It's a numbers game. It's really, really difficult to get that attention that you need. If you're struggling with something, you think about a period is about 52 minutes. It was when I was at school. Firstly, you're settling into class. How long does that take? 2 minutes? Bit of rowdiness, maybe that gets you up to 5 minutes. So that leaves us with 47 minutes. Teacher explains the concept for the class for the day. How long does that take? 10 maybe? 10 minutes? We'll say that leaves us with 37 minutes with 30 kids in the class. So how much individual attention can a child get in a class? If you divide that up and it all works out ideally, you'd get a bit over a minute each of individual instruction. Of course, there's kids putting their hands up and asking stupid questions. They say there are no stupid questions. There are. Okay. But it's a numbers game and it's really difficult to get all that. So I guess what we're trying to say is the machine is a really, really wonky thing that is standing on one leg and you've got to kick it here and there to get it working. So they're the systemic issues that we've identified in our humble opinion. You make up your own mind. So how do we rebuild this thing from the ground up? What is on the ground floor of education?
The child.
the child, not the building, right? Building doesn't exist yet. Got a clean slate here, but we've got a child.
Yeah.
And I imagine this child is inquisitive and connected to a parent, loved ones, a community. So what do we do from there, Riki? We've got this beautiful young child with a bright mind, hasn't been tainted yet. How do we educate this child?
They've been learning the whole time. It doesn't all of a sudden start. They already were learning and being educated from early on. So it's not like as if at a certain age learning starts or education starts. The environment was already there for learning. So I guess an extension of being around attachment figures and being in a place where they're safe to explore all of their natural curiosities would be the way to go, I'd say.
See, we're homeschoolers, and even I didn't even think kids are already learning. Okay, this is meant to be my wheelhouse. And I'm like, yeah, that's a really good point. We need to shift then. We need to change that paradigm. We don't go, we stick them in this box and then the learning starts. We've got to understand that this is a continuum.
Yes, yeah,
don't
absolutely.
We?
Yeah,
that this
it should be a continuum instead of like, that it's always unfolding and the child is always wanting to learn, always wanting to. It's not like as if you have to somehow teach them how to want to learn or teach them how to learn. They're learning. So.
Yeah. I think, rightly or wrongly, when kids are young, toddlers, we think of caring for them. We think that's just a period of care. We're caretakers, and after that, they go and learn. We're not educators. We're just simply caretakers.
Yeah.
Then we throw them into the machine where they go and learn stuff.
Because how else will they learn?
Exactly. But we all need to shift. I think that's probably the first step with reforming education, is that we need to see that education is something that happens all the time. Learning happens all the time, and it happens naturally. And I was just thinking of little kids. They're always like, what's that over there?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And have you noticed that whenever you're doing something, a child has this amazing ability to be able to come right between you and the light source. They're so interested in what you do, but it's like, it just happens to be that, oh, what? And they're drawn to, what you're looking at, and it's in the light, and they happen to stand right in between that light source because they're so curious. What's happening over there? I want to learn about that, I want to find out. But it's just something I've noticed over the years. That's where they happen to stand, right in that spot. Yeah.
So look, step one, we really need to understand that learning is constant, it's natural, it's continuous.
Yeah.
So following on from that principle, I want to get a building into this. How do we get, the four walls around this child? How do we box them in?
Well, you've shared with me in the past an idea about a kind of a building. It doesn't have to be a building, but an idea about...
Right, I think I know where you're going with this. Right, truthfully, I'm not that keen on sticking kids inside a box. That was just a joke. But practically, we probably need to, from an economic rationalist point of view, we need some sort of mass system. The only mass system that I think that suits everybody's needs, that the only institution that works for all of us, is the food court. I want a kebab, you want sushi, no problem, right? Food courts are great. And here's the thing about food courts. They're all competing for your business, right? They're not rude. They're not like, well, you have to come here. So,
It's part of the curriculum. It's a core part of your diet.
Exactly. Yep. Today's kebab day. You're eating a kebab. Too bad. Okay, no matter how crap I am at making kebabs, no matter how disinterested I am, no matter how I treat you, you've got to come and have a kebab. Doesn't happen. So I was trying to apply that to an educational setting. And I imagine a place where people have choices, whatever they feel like at the time, and that people have to make their thing great to attract students. Then I thought a bit wider, why does it have to be a place? And it just hit me that it's just the community. The community has all the resources already. And not to toot our own horn or anything, but without realizing it, that's what we do. So our kids are homeschooled, and that doesn't mean that they do everything at home. It means they learn wherever they need to learn. Mm-hmm. It's just the name. Forget about it. But we've connected with the right people. So our eldest son is a waste management enthusiast. From the beginning, we've gone out and met garbage contractors. We've gone to waste management shows. We're going to one in a couple of months. We've flown around the country for them. There wasn't a building where we went where there was this selection of different industries and we just went along and picked. This is just happening in real life, in the city. Mm-hmm. And I don't see why that approach can't work for everything. No. So you've got a child that loves nature. There's trees everywhere. Go climb trees. There's national parks, for example. You don't have to go, all right, we've got to find a class where he can sit in and talk about trees. Right? He can go and live it. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to break away from the mold of the four walls and look at what do we already have in our community and how do we utilize these resources? And
it's funny, that's how we started in terms of kids being around adults and learning from adults all the time. And I agree. I think that's a fantastic idea, and I'd love to see children have the opportunity and the choice. Before you said powerlessness. And yeah, they don't have that choice to say, well, actually, I feel like for me, 12 years of your curriculum ideas is just not suitable to me. And I've often thought that just to try and put myself in that situation for a child that absolutely, say, hates a particular subject or all the subjects, the whole lot. They think for 12 years, what? I've got to sit here and do all of this and I've got to listen to you talk about all of that. And I thought, well, what would be the equivalent of something if someone told me that I had to spend 12 years learning about something? And I thought the thing that I'd be most disinterested in, and this is no criticism to nail artists, but if someone told me that I had to study fake nail artistry and the colouring and the decoration and the shaping and the whole thing about nail artistry, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to spend 12 years doing this?
I, for one, love nail artistry. Don't listen to Riki.
And part of me might think, well, maybe there's something, or maybe the tools, maybe they might use Dremels or interesting tools that I could apply to my other things that I'm interested in. Maybe I might learn about certain kinds of adhesives that I might be able to learn something from. But to think for 12 years learning about that, it would be like a prison sentence.
Yeah. For me, it would be royal gossip. That would destroy me if I had to write 2,000-word essays on the royal family.
Yeah.
And why, this person is a good queen and this... I'm not talking about from historical stuff. I'm talking about the stuff you read in tabloids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be equally...
That would
it would just...
kill me.
Yeah.
And if I were told that I'm dumb and got failed on that...
Because you didn't know what Meghan Markle said or something.
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean you don't know about Harry and Meghan and all this?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. So just trying to relate, because kids don't care about the curriculum. But if they're told they have to do this it's essential, this is, you must do it, then they're powerless to say no.
Riki, as you know, there is a magazine called Pigeon Fancier. Now, I fancy a pigeon, but I accept that not everybody else fancies a pigeon as much as I do, right? So we can't make that the curriculum, can we?
No.
It's got to be based on the child's interests.
Yeah, although that would be better than nail artistry for me.
Yeah, right. You like pigeons too.
Well, I like birds. I like pigeons, yeah.
I just want to go back to the example I gave you of that kid that is still in school, even though he's completely disinterested. He's in his final year, he's got his driver's license, he's very capable, he could be doing anything. His goal at the end of the year is to go to Thailand to do some Muay Thai. He already trains here in Australia. He's a big dude. I wouldn't fight him. I'll be honest with you. I think he could take me pretty easily. He's 6'3", I'm 5'3". There's a reason why there are weight categories, okay? But he's a pretty solid dude. I think it's remiss of schools to be keeping him. I feel like they are derelict in their duty by saying, you can stay here. I feel that there should be an exit strategy for kids like that. To say, hey, Jimmy, you're really, really good at kickboxing. Okay, Muay Thai is your future. I know that you want to stay here and talk to your friends and everything. Why don't we have like a drop-in class for you where you can come? You're always welcome here at lunchtime and recess. But why don't you focus on getting good at your teeps, your jabs, get your clinch work going. Focus on that. I think that would be the best of both worlds.
Or give them that freedom.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, why don't you go do this? It could be, this is an open place. If you've got something else like kickboxing or that you'd like to go and be doing, you can always come and go as you feel is right for you. But just have an open policy where kids can come and go as they please.
Yeah, I think that would work. I might talk to the school about it. I'll just go, well, I'm that guy with that YouTube channel that no one watches. We can say whatever we want because no one watches this. It's great. I shot JFK. I'm kidding. She did. So we're looking at the environment and we're saying it should be the wider community. Now, in terms of what a child should learn, we've looked at following their interests. What I think is also important for anybody who's supporting children is to look at it in terms of self-knowledge for the child and self-actualization. There are so many kids that leave school and have no idea who they are because they've been told to fit into the machine. They know how to fit into the machine. They know how to line up. They know what hairstyles they're meant to have. A friend of mine went to a school where their skirts were measured. This is like today. This isn't, back in the 1950s. This is a modern school in Australia. They had to have their skirts measured. So they know all of this stuff, but do they know themselves? And to me, if educators have it in mind that by the time this child leaves, I want them to know themselves, that would change everything. So in my mind, the curriculum shouldn't be what subjects you should learn. It's let the child explore the world because naturally young children, want to know what's out there. It takes a while for them to come and go, what's in here? But it happens. So I was thinking of it as a proportional exploration and reflection. If us educators can get better with our emotional intelligence, just being in tune with where a child is, to encourage them wherever they're going, to keep them safe as they explore the outside world, but then as they need it, as they get more inquisitive about what's in here, we help them with that. We help them with their self-knowledge and understand what there is to know about themselves. So they explore their own personal history, their own bodies, their own psychology. So what we haven't covered so far is reading, writing, and arithmetic. But those things can all be covered naturally. Reading and writing, you can read and write about the things that matter to you. You can write essays about your own psychology. As for all the other subjects that you're meant to do, geography and PE and history and all that sort of stuff, no offense to anyone who comes up with a curriculum, but you could probably learn all that stuff in one afternoon of scrolling through YouTube shorts. The amount of facts that our kids know about everything just by going, oh, yeah. And I'm listening in on it going, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one. Yeah. Well, so Hitler only had one ball. That's right. I thought that was just a joke. And again, no disrespect to anyone who's worked really, really hard on any of this stuff. But those facts that children are supposed to learn, you can get that in so many different ways. It's funny, I do a classical music curriculum with my eldest son, and the classics to which I refer are very different to what other people might think are classics. So we're driving in the car, I'm like, okay, you really need to know this one. This is called Take On Me by a-ha. But it's the little things like that, pop culture stuff. But you don't need to sit in a classroom and go, right, today's lesson is on a-ha. Do they have any other songs? Because I think they toured. I was thinking, really? All right. I need to look that up. We also have a friend who's got a PhD in English, and I think she specialised in Chaucer. I don't even know who Chaucer is. That's how lowbrow I am. I think he was one of the Avengers. But imagine putting that amount of rigorous study into yourself. Imagine what you would discover. Your genetics, your family history, everything about you, your psychology, of course.
Or just your interests.
And
well.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
I think that would change the dynamic of society. I think self-knowledge being the norm would change everything. I think disciplinary issues would completely fade away if a child was encouraged to walk their path. Imagine that. What a difference that would make. Yeah. So look, this is our radical approach to education. Let's look at utilising the whole community, the global community, as our school, as our four walls. You're bound by essentially the stratosphere. That's it. And maybe one day you'll be able to go to Mars. Who knows? In other words, no limit.
Yeah.
No need for four walls. So that's your school. Everything is your school. Incredible.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
In terms of curriculum, it's all about exploration and reflection in a proportional way, depending on what the child is at. In terms of reading, writing, and arithmetic, It's all through the child's interests. In terms of specialisation, let the writers write their essays. Let the math people, like me, crunch their numbers. Let the programmers code. And if somebody doesn't have a specialty yet, let them find it. It'll come. And as educators, let's be more emotionally aware. If you're a teacher or whatever position you're in, just be in tune with the child. Know what's happening for them. And you know what? If the four walls aren't working for them in your situation, because that's where we are today, we're not going to just all of a sudden pull them all down. If it's not working for a child, see what will work for them. See what you can offer them, and let's try to open things up a bit. Now, while this all sounds like pie in the sky sort of stuff, Riki and I are doing it. That's not to blow our own trumpet or anything like that. We're doing it as best we can, and we're certainly not perfect. We've shown that we can connect with people from all over the place, all over the world, that networking is possible for a young child to do. Social skills can come from all over the place. We don't need to lump people all together. It's working. Our children are finding their specialties, but that's not to say that they're not doing anything else. And all the important facts our children are learning through whatever means they feel like it. It's everywhere. Now, we'd love to know what you think about the future of education and education reform. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what your take is.
We'd love to hear it.
And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you'd like to see more of us. Thank you.
Thanks so much.